Welcome to this week's edition of Coach Prep. Coach Don and I are here in the Cherokee Batting Range podcast studio getting ready to record episode number 133. We've got a really interesting topic for you today. We're going to talk about coaches maybe exercising a little bit of patience, a little bit of common sense, a little bit of restraint, especially early in the year. But before we get into that, let's talk about our sponsors. First, the Anderson Bat Company. Everything Fast Pitch is very proud to have Anderson Bat Company as our presenting sponsor. Anderson Bat Company is using the latest and greatest bat technology to corner the market in the fast pitch world. They have the -9 Rocket Tech, the -10 Carbon, and the -11 Carbon Light. Anderson Bat Company is using this technology to put a high-performing bat in the hands of hitters that really know the difference between a good bat and a great bat. We're also working with Anderson to provide a discount for all of our listeners. Go to the Anderson Bat Company website and order your bats. Use the EFP20 discount, which is for everything fast pitch, and you'll get a 20% discount. It's a great way for you to save a little bit of money on a great bat and also help support everything fast pitch at the same time. If you're seeing value in what we're doing, if you would like to help support us, go to patreon.com/everythingfastpitch. We've got a very, very strong group of patrons that have been supporting us for a while now, that have done a great job of keeping us in business. But we would certainly love to have more people come on board and help support us. There's 3 different levels of support, 3 different monthly levels that you commit to. And everything that you are contributing goes towards helping us keeping everything fast pitch and Coach Prep going. There's nothing that we're doing that is free. I mean, everything that we do has got a cost attached to it, whether it's the publishing services, the promotion, the technology that it takes to put the podcast together. And so we certainly do appreciate our supporters. As a way of saying thank you, we're going to start doing a patron giveaway. Pinnacle is donating some Power Bites and some Power Butter. We're going to be sending out some product to a different patron every week for the next few weeks. We're going to start making those announcements on the Everything Fast Pitch podcast every Wednesday. So if you need one more little bit of motivation, incentive to become a patron, you can get some free Pinnacle product as they get chosen every week. So Don, do you ever have that feeling when you're coaching a team? Something went wrong, your team played poorly, or your team played great. And you walk out of there thinking either, oh my God, we're never going to win another game, or wow, we're amazing.
What a crazy season we're going to have. It's
we might not lose a game. Well, the reality of it is, and my experience tells me that your team's never as bad as you think it is when it's not going well. And they're never as good as you think they are when it seems to be going well. That the reality always resides somewhere in the middle. The reason we wanted to have this discussion today was to help our coaches kind of keep this all in perspective, because I keep seeing coaches swinging the pendulum like it's like the roller coaster of softball madness. They're on the peaks and the valleys, climbing the hill on the roller coaster, and they think they're never going to lose a game,
or throwing the towel in,
and then they hit the peak and they go plummeting down at 100 miles an hour, and they think they're never going to win another game. And so now, as we get into this, I have to admit this: for about an 8-year period, not 9-year period, every place that I coached, we lost our first game of the year. And I can honestly tell you that for a split second every year, I would always have this feeling like, oh shoot, I wonder if we're ever going to win a game. And usually it would be the second game or the third game, and things would kind of get back to normal. But we had a couple of times that we start off like 0-5 or 0-6, and you start to really think, oh my gosh, we are awful. Well, some of those years that we started off a little bit slowly ended up being some of our best years. And there were a couple of years in there that we started off really hot that were really disappointing. A year that I will never forget when I was coaching at UW Parkside, Don, you'll remember this because you all won the national championship this year. We went to Emporia, Kansas with a record of like 64-4 and thinking we were going to win a national championship. And our power hitting team hit balls up into the jet stream, and none of them went anywhere, and we ended up going home 0-2. So we went out there 64-4, came home 64-6.
Right.
So, so all that early season success and all that early season hype didn't really mean anything for us at the end of the year. And so coaches, here's what we want you to be thinking about. If you're coaching, and especially early in the year, but I think it can happen at any time of the year, and you start to have that, oh my gosh, we're terrible, oh my gosh, are we ever going to win a game feeling? We want you to take a step back and off the ledge. It's not really that bad, but we want to make sure that you're sticking to the plan and sticking to the process, because this idea of we had a bad weekend, so now we're going to have a 12-hour mega practice and try to fix everything that went wrong this last weekend in one day is probably causing more harm than good. And honestly, the flip side of that discussion we just won the tournament. We rolled through and we kicked everybody's butt. So we're going to take a weekend off because, well, we certainly don't have anything we need to work on. We don't need to practice this weekend because look how great we played. I think either one of those extremes is a really bad idea, and we want to make sure that we're avoiding both of them. So whichever side of the spectrum you're on, whichever part of the roller coaster you're riding on this week, let's kind of try to keep it all in perspective.
I think, Tori, the year you were describing was a year that we may have started 3-6 or something crazy like that, and then went on a 40-game winning streak.
Yeah.
So we had the same exact opposite end of that, where we thought it was going to be a long season. But I think in regards to our travel groups and all the guys that we're visiting with on the podcast, taking it one step at a time, taking one piece, make one piece better. You've got a whole season, right?
Yeah.
And any kind of desperation type event at practice is really going to be alarming, I think, for everybody.
Right.
And parents included. And with today's climate, everybody's ready to jump ship too early. So,
right.
So if we can keep some positives in there, I think that's important too.
Yeah, pushing the panic button is never going to be a good idea.
Yeah.
And it certainly does not bode well for the rest of the year.
Even if you feel like it.
Right.
Yeah.
No matter how desperate things might seem, no matter how badly it felt like you played, and even it could be more than a one weekend event. It could be a 2 or 3 weekends in a row. And we talked earlier this year, a brand new team that had a chance to be really good, that everybody pushed the panic button because they jumped in and played too strong of a schedule too early, got beat a bunch, and turned what could have been a pretty good team into a disaster, a nightmare, because everybody pushed the panic button and wanted to find an easier fix to the problem. But so the idea is that it's never as good or as bad as your initial reaction is. And so what we're asking all our coaches to do, take a step back and, let's say you played this weekend and you went 0-5. Look for the things that you did well. Look for the things that you did positively. Look for the things that you did better this weekend than last weekend. Don't spend all your time just, harping on the things that didn't go well. If you felt like your pitching really struggled this weekend, before you decide that all your pitchers are no good and you need to get rid of them and replace them with somebody better, let's look for the positives that are in the games that were played. There's still going to be positive things that you can build on. There's going to be positive things that you can look at and say, well, all right, it didn't work out for us to win any games this weekend, but our pitchers threw more strikes. They were more aggressive, had less walks. They gave up less home runs.
Getting us a lot of ground balls.
And conversely then, so our pitchers got us a lot of ground balls, but our defense really struggled this weekend. Okay, do they normally struggle? Does that mean that we have a lot of stuff we need to work on? Then we can go into that practice, the next practice, and think of more ways to work on the things that we need to address without going totally...
Like a punishment.
Yeah.
It's not a punishment practice.
Right. Well, and to me, I think for a lot of us old school coaches, we kind of came up with that. If we played badly, we knew we were going to get punished.
I can remember running sprints after games.
Yeah, I can remember.
Me personally.
Polls.
As a player.
Yeah. And polls after polls after polls because we lost a game that, that our coach felt like we should have won. And not even that we played poorly, just because we lost. But, your point of if it feels like we're going to be punished because we lost, then that just adds that much more pressure and increases the likelihood that we're not going to play well. And it's all on us. As coaches, it's all on us. However we react is going to set the tone for whether it's a bump in the road or if it's driving off the cliff. And, if we act like we're driving off the cliff, well, chances are you don't come back from that very well. So it's up to us to set the tone and to do the analysis and present it in a way that allows for an honest assessment, but then turning that, whatever happened into a more positive opportunity to improve our weaknesses. And then, just like we said before, the opposite end of the spectrum, if we played really well this weekend and we turn that into we don't need to work very hard or we're not going to work very hard for a while, I think that's a trap that we see all the time too, because just because you won last weekend doesn't mean that you're going to keep winning. And I'm sure you have this discussion too that I have with hitters all the time. Wow, I was killing the ball this weekend. I did great. What did you do this weekend that that you felt like you had so much success? Well, I didn't do anything extra special. I just been doing my work. And then that same player, 3 weeks later will come in. Well, I was terrible this weekend. I didn't, I didn't have a hit all weekend long. Okay, well, what was different? What didn't you do? Well, I didn't go to practice on Tuesday, I didn't hit in the cage, or I didn't
Skip
hit,
my cuts,
I didn't
yeah.
hit off the tee at the house, this week. I had this, that, and the other thing, and all these other things that were, that kept me from doing my work. And, I went into the weekend and I did terribly. Like, well, it's not rocket science. You don't have to be a genius to figure out that if you did your work the one week and you did great, and then you didn't do your work and you didn't do well, probably a connection to that. But the same is true for us as coaches. If we keep doing the work, eventually we're going to see the results. We're going to see the outcomes that are going to improve, and the amount of success that we're going to have is going to probably improve too.
No, I like everything you're saying there, Tori, and you kind of get out of it what you put in. And if we can be routine about the things that we do prior to good events, we've got to kind of take note of it. And like you said, when you ask the player what kind of things were good or positive about it, and if we can bottle that up or recreate it or try and make that part of our routine, then we've got a lot better chance to stay steady.
Right.
And that's kind of the magic and the trick for hitting is staying steady and not have as deep a dips or peaks and valleys like you're saying. And for me as a player, if I feel that following weekend after we've had a challenging weekend that it's an or else type of situation,
right.
If I don't do this, we're going to have another one of those kind of things. That's a whole different mindset and a whole different feeling, mentally going into that next weekend rather than, I'm really excited to get a chance to go out there and show what, the work we did this week is gonna
right.
produce. So, yeah.
Well, and this whole idea of being able to find the positives, find the strengths, even in a weak performance, I think it can be a great way to turn this whole thing around and keep the train on the track. So let's say your example you used before of our pitchers pitched really well. We got a lot of ground balls. We just didn't play really good defense. Well, if we turn that into, we come back to practice and we're building on the fact, hey, our pitchers did great. We got a lot of ground balls, and we know we're a really good defensive team. But we're going to work on a couple of things to kind of polish it up a little bit. We're going to work on a few things, to be a little bit more ready so that when our pitchers get us ground balls next time, we'll be more prepared to make those plays. That's a whole different way of seeing it and way of presenting it than our defense is terrible. Our pitchers pitched great, and you guys let them down.
No doubt.
The whole idea of how we package it as coaches, how we present it, and basically how we analyze it's going to always have a lot to say about how this is all going to work out. And so whole idea of it's a marathon, not a sprint. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of our coaches have one bad sprint, and we kind of lose our perspective, or we have one really positive sprint. We win the big race, and then we lose our perspective too. So stay the course, stay with your plan, keep working on the stuff that is important, but make sure that we're looking for the strengths in everything that we're doing. We have to always look for the weaknesses too, but the thing I tell hitters all the time is it's a lot easier to do a couple things right than to not do all the things wrong that you could do wrong. And when you just think about it that way, well, what are all the things you can do wrong? Well, there's about 1 million of them. Well, but if we think about doing a few things right, what happens to all those things that could go wrong? Well,
there's fewer of them.
Yeah, none of them are going to happen.
Present themselves. Yeah.
So if I'm focusing on throwing accurately, well, okay, so then the throwing it away stuff kind of disappears. If I'm working on being aggressive, well, then the striking out thing probably disappears. So there's all kinds of things that kind of feed into each other, that counterbalance and interact with each other, that are going to make a big difference.
No, I think I really like what you're saying about how you package it, and you get to choose as a coach, and maybe it's positioning our kids a little differently, maybe fine tuning, like you said, more fresh fielders because they've taken a lot of reps ground ball wise, but package it well and dig in and make the next weekend better.
Yeah, and if you come back with we were terrible all weekend long, we might not ever win another game. Yeah, you're probably right. You might not ever win another game. So coaches, we kind of keep that all in perspective, get off the roller coaster. Let's stay on a little bit more of a even keel, make sure that we're staying a little bit more balanced, and we're going to all be a whole lot happier. So Don, anything else for 133?
No, as always, Tori, looking forward to a great week.
Perfect. Well, that's going to wrap up episode number 133 for Coach Don McKinley and our producer, Stan Lewis. This is Coach Tori saying thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again next week.